The worst thing anyone can do is show up out of nowhere and say, here's a journey map. What are we going to do about it?
Customer experience wisdom, a dash of travel talk. We've been cleared for takeoff.
The best meals are served outside and require a passport.
Welcome back to this week's episode of CX Passport. Today, my guest is Dave Seaton, a CX strategist who knows that journey maps aren't just, pretty pictures. They should drive real business impact. Amen and amen. As CEO of Seaton CX, he built the Dharma method to do just that, help companies turn customer insights into growth. Dave's career spans healthcare, cybersecurity, and telecom, always focused on fixing the disconnect between what businesses think customers need and what actually matters to a customer. He's an award-winning consultant, a co-author of the Customer Experience Book of Knowledge, and a speaker at some of the biggest CX conferences out there. You may have even seen Dave recently on Gary Mara's excellent podcast, Your Customer, Your Success. If not yet, be sure and check that episode and Gary's podcast in general out. I first knew Dave when he lived in my neck of the woods here in North Texas. Now he's off to much, much prettier locales in Colorado. That should help him with his ambition to visit all of the national parks. 13 down, 50 to go. Oh, and we might just talk about chicken dinner. What's that you say? Stay tuned. Dave, welcome to CX Passport.
Thanks, Rick. It is great to be here. I've been a big fan of this show for many years and looking forward to it.
Well, you're very, very kind to say that. I appreciate that. I've certainly been a big fan of you. And I remember that it was one of those cases that we lived in the same neck of the woods, and yet it took us a while to finally meet in person. But we finally got that chance to do that at that event there at Grapevine. Let's get into that journey mapping aspect of this. Some leaders dismiss journey mapping as just consulting fluff. What's your response to that? And how do you prove its value?
Well, I would say to that leader, imagine yourself walking into your CFO's office and saying, for every $1 you invest in CX, I'll give you 9 back. And what would it feel like to have that kind of conversation with your executive team rather than reading off the verbatims from the latest NPS report? That's the power of journey mapping. Is showing companies where to invest their limited resources to have the biggest impact on, yes, the customer experience, but also the company's business results as well. And that nine times ROI figure is from a project I did with a B2B SaaS company, where we looked at, from a specific journey, they were leaking $1.5 million a year. And after acting on the insights from the journey map, after taking action, they were able to reduce that churn by about 66%. So that's another $1 million of annual recurring revenue hitting the top line.
I love, if this were a written text, you'd see that bold and you'd see emphasis added, right? And that choice of the word act, certainly I think it's an important part. What is it about journey maps that frequently there is that disconnect between the creation of journey map and then the actual acting of it? There's a lot of effort to create a journey map. Why would it just sit on a wall?
Yeah. Journey map means different things to different people. And in fact, you can go out on YouTube and you can watch a video of how to make a customer journey map in 1 hour.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Nifty.
Yeah. Somebody's put that content out there. And so journey map means a lot of different things to different people. And that's the reason why, if you look at research from CXPA in 2016, Gartner in 2019, TSIA in 2022, about half of journey mapping projects fail to drive any value for the business.
Yeah.
They don't get acted upon. The number one reason I see for that failure is that the journey maps are created from internal knowledge and internal thinking. And they don't actually research the customer experience. And that's what our YouTube video will tell you, is just get all your executives into a room and you can map out the customer journey.
Okay.
And there is some value in that because there's always friction between handoffs from sales to onboarding, from onboarding to support. And so there's some value understanding that from the company's perspective. But the real value, the deep insight, comes from the customer research.
Yeah. Dave, tell me a little bit about that, like the customer research aspect, because the reason I was chuckling is I imagine there's been all sorts of phenomenal experiences that have been designed in a boardroom, in a conference room, by gathering executives together who clearly knew what the customer is experiencing, but from all sorts of categories could not actually identify with the actual customer and the actual customer's experience being so far removed from it. How are you recommending that companies go about getting that actual research, insight, understanding, or just reality of what a customer's true experience is?
Yeah, by qualitative and then sometimes quantitative research. So if we take a step back, we look at the Dharma journey mapping methodology that I created. It's an acronym, DARMA. It's not the Hindu word. There's no H in Dharma.
It's not an allusion to a 90s TV show? What was that? Dharma and Greg.
Yeah,
So yes.
Yep. It's an acronym for the 5 steps of journey mapping. Step 1, D, define the opportunity. What is the opportunity for the company for doing this work? I talked to another CX leader yesterday who used journey mapping to identify problems in customer onboarding for a freemium product. They sign up, but they never pay.
Okay.
And using journey mapping, they were able to identify the customer experience there and triple the conversion rate in onboarding.
You mean real results like we talked about in the intro. It's amazing, right?
Exactly. But it starts with defining the opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got to look into the business performance, the metrics, the financial metrics that matter to the business. Then we move into step 2A, analyzing the current state. Let's gather all the information we have about how the business is currently performing, including what executives think, identify the handoffs and the opinions and the knowledge that they have. But we don't have a journey map there.
Right.
Then we go into the research phase, and that is recruiting customers to participate in research.
Okay.
Qualitative in-depth interviews is what my company specializes in. So after we conduct the research, then and only then do we move into M, which is to map the customer journey.
Got it.
And we will use the research to develop the personas and then map those different personas' journeys. And then that leads us to the last stage, which is action.
My magic word.
Right. Now we've got all the insights. Now let's identify what are the opportunities. We'll ideate on solutions. We'll prioritize those, develop business cases as we need, and we go and act. I worked with a company earlier this year. Because we were just doing a micro journey, we were able to map the entire journey from defining the problem to creating the map in about 6 weeks. In the 30 days following those 6 weeks, they implemented a new service channel for that journey. It was previously only handled over email, but what they learned is these customers, which are their dealers, they're on a job site or they're in their car between job sites. Email is not convenient.
Right.
So they created a phone channel. So I'm on a job site. I'm right there in front of my customer. I can call the company and get the issue resolved then and there.
Hey there, CX Passport travelers. I want to let you know about CX Passport Live. CX Passport Live helps brands amplify their event's impact with the power of live, in-person podcasting. Brands partner with CX Passport Live at their on-site event to help excite attendees, reward high-value customers, and convert potential customers. Bring a new level of energy and excitement to your event and amplify your brand's impact with CX Passport Live. Learn more at cxpassportlive.com. Now, back to the show. What I like about that, Dave, it reminds me of something I had another guest a while ago, and he was focused on that B2B world. And it was similar in that their customers were, well, they were the buyers and sellers of yellow iron. Well, that's primarily out of big construction sites. Nobody's sitting in front of a laptop. And so exactly that human channel, that phone channel, that discovery of that, when all the trends might be going another direction, the reality, if your customer through the journey mapping you're describing needs this particular channel, will then act and deliver upon that channel.
Yeah.
You said a couple things in there that I want to pull at a little bit.
Okay.
And one is that act, and some of them just do it, and others may be simpler, but there's things that are more complex. And there's going to be actions that are required of groups that are beyond that journey mapping exercise. They may not have participated. They might not be interested. They have their own goals and objectives. How do you get the groups that are needed but weren't necessarily involved initially?
Well, to the best of my ability, I get them involved
Yeah.
at the very beginning. And what I find most effective is, it's not me talking. It's not like Dave Seaton, some expert in their business, right? I play back the customer interview video clips and highlight reels, and the customers do the convincing. And when these executives, these stakeholders in other silos are watching their own customers, they're seeing the facial expressions,
Right.
they're hearing the emotions. That does all the convincing that needs to happen.
I like that.
Yeah.
What you're describing to me what I'm hearing in my ears is the emotion behind it. That data and charts do a lot of heavy lifting. Emotions tend to push that over the finish line. That someone's like, man, I don't want to be the one responsible for causing that. You mentioned something else. You mentioned personas. And when you and I had talked earlier, you had a different approach to personas than what a lot of folks do. You know, a lot of times personas are just simply demographic profiles, age, job, title, family details, that sort of thing.
Right.
Your approach ties it directly to business results. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah. So with our personas, we're focused on customer goals. What is the customer trying to accomplish? Their needs. What are their specific needs to accomplish that goal? And then their values. What do they value in this experience? Is it a purely functional value, like this product or service saves me money, saves me time, makes me money? Is it more of an emotional? Is it the badge value of, pulling into my driveway in that expensive car and what the neighbors think? Luxury, how does it make me feel? Is it a more aspirational value? Am I buying this thing because it motivates me to make a positive change in my life? So we try and understand customers based on goals, needs, and values, because those influence how the customer perceives the journey. I'll give you an example. I was working with a residential internet company, and one of their personas was the work from homer. This person uses their residential internet, much like I do, to work from home. It's their livelihood. If that internet goes down or is glitchy, they're missing important meetings, their work performance is impacted. So this work from home persona, we called her remote work Rachel, encompassed one customer who was a director of marketing at one of the 10 biggest companies in the world, using this internet service to work from home, and also a customer who had just gotten her first apartment and her first job, and she was a remote contact center operator. And if her internet went down, she was logged out of the phone system, wasn't making money, wasn't taking calls, and facing disciplinary action.
Right. Yeah.
Now, here you got director of marketing, right, at one of the biggest companies in the world, and first job, but they're the same persona because they have the same goal to earn a living through my internet connection. They have the same needs. They need it to be up, reliable, not glitchy. That's what the product gives them, is that remote work lifestyle.
Dave, I really appreciate that person, because a lot of times those would be two different personas. And yet in this case, it's the same persona because they have that same objective there. You and I have a same objective right now, and we need to stop down and take a little break. We're going to stop down here in the First Class Lounge. We'll move quickly, have a little bit of fun here. What is a dream travel location from your past?
From my past, Kuala Lumpur.
Okay, I can see why.
I kind of got obsessed with it in the 90s, that movie Entrapment.
Oh,
and I finally got to visit in 2011, but I was coming from China and I caught bird flu in China.
Oh no.
So my 2 days in Kuala Lumpur, I spent it hallucinating in the hotel room. Now, Kuala Lumpur has some of the cheapest 5-star hotel rooms in the world. So we had this 2-bedroom apartment on the 18th story of some high-rise downtown. It was incredible. And I spent most of the trip very, very sick in that hotel room. I did get to see the Petronas Towers. I did not get to go up, so I want to go back.
Oh my gosh. It's an interesting choice for dream travel location from your past. It's almost like it's a dream travel location because you were having fever dreams in your past. Are you sure you were there? Do we need to check that passport? Maybe that's going to be one that's for the future. But I'll ask, what is a dream travel location you've not been to yet?
Italy. My wife and I have been wanting to go to Italy for a very long time. It's my dream to rent a Lambo and drive the Amalfi Coast.
Nice.
Yeah, it's both of us want to go to Piedmont and do the wine tour. We love the Barolos and the Barberas, and so yeah, someday we will make it to northern Italy.
Well, you know what goes really well with a good wine is some good food.
Yeah.
So what is a favorite thing of yours to eat?
This has been difficult for me to nail down in my life, but I have settled on the cheeseburger. As pedestrian as that is.
No, don't you disclaim that cheeseburger. That is a fantastic choice.
I even had, because Dallas is the land of cheeseburgers.
Yes.
I had developed a burger matrix where I ranked different cheeseburgers based on whether they were traditional or artisan, and then the quality.
No, is that a publicly available matrix?
No, it is probably on my hard drive somewhere.
That needs to be your next newsletter lead magnet. Hey, sign up for my newsletter and get Dave's DFW burger matrix. There's a little free tip for you. Try that one. I hope you haven't built a matrix for this. What is that thing that you were forced to eat growing up, but you hated as a kid?
Brussels sprouts.
Amen.
Yeah.
And you're not a new convert like the trendy folks will say?
Nope.
Dave, you and I are going to be best friends. You love cheeseburgers and you hate Brussels sprouts. That's all I need to hear. Time, sadly, for us to leave the First Class Lounge. What is one travel item, not including your phone, not including your passport, that you will not leave home without?
My sleep mask. I have an incredible memory foam sleep mask. Doesn't matter what the condition is of the drapes or the little light on the smoke detector. I always sleep great with my sleep mask.
Dave, the sleep mask can be vital. Just did an international trip, and absolutely on a plane or something like that, there's way too much going on. You got to block all that world out, and I'm glad you found one that you like. You've been in a lot of companies, both certainly employee and consultant and all of that. You've seen attitudes towards journey mapping that would skew more towards the there is no value there. You've talked about how there is value. What's a story where you took a company from this doesn't have value to wow, this is awesome?
So when I come in as a consultant, there's at least a part of the company that has bought into the idea of journey map. But there are frequently skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a particular company, we're doing stakeholder interviews, and this guy just comes in guns blazing. I don't know why we're doing this. We've got 3 other initiatives in this company that are mapping processes. This is duplicative. It's a waste of effort. And we did our best to explain how journey mapping and process mapping are different but complementary and the goals we're supporting and everything. He still wasn't convinced. They never are on the first call. And then I remember the next interaction, we were presenting our plan to the senior leadership team, and he took aim at qualitative research. He said, "We're interviewing 30 customers. We have 70,000 customers. How is that even statistically significant? Are you telling me we're going to take action on what one guy complains about here or there in an interview?" And we had buy-in from the president, and the president said, "Look, we're going to do this. We're going to interview 30 customers. If that's not enough, we'll interview 60. If that's not enough, we'll interview 90 until we're all convinced that we understand what this journey is like." It's great to have the support.
Yeah, you got some great
dog,
support. Right? There's a lot of people listening going, "Well, that'd be great, Dave. Nice job."
But part of the Dharma journey mapping process, sometimes I call it step 5.5. Sometimes I call it the hidden step, but it's not really a step. It's woven into the 5 steps because it begins at defining and it ends at acting, and that's change management. And that's engineering their participation all along the way. The worst thing anyone can do is show up out of nowhere and say, "Here's a journey map. What are we going to do about it?"
Right.
People don't know what it is. They don't know why it's important, and they don't care. But when they're involved in defining the problem and making sure that this initiative is going to support their own personal and professional goals, and then they feel like they have a voice in analyzing the current state, when they're observing customer interviews, either live or the playback, when they're hearing that with their own ears and then talking about it with their own mouths, and then they're seeing the journey map, then they're not sitting there skeptical of what they're seeing. They're leaning in saying, "Oh, yeah, that's what I heard when I observed those customer interviews. That's what I learned." This guy, by the end, was one of our biggest supporters.
Nice.
And had completely changed his tune and his tone, and he got it. He got it. The light bulb came on.
What a great way to get that person with the light bulb. And just like we talk about in service recovery inside of the customer experience world, I imagine someone who was an antagonist that became your protagonist is stronger than those that were kind of bought in from the beginning, and certainly has a louder case to make inside the company of, "I was a doubter and now I'm a believer, and so you should be too."
Yeah.
Dave, I want to ask you, chicken dinner. I mentioned it in the intro. I don't even fully know what chicken dinner is all about. I'm so curious. Tell me about it. What inspired you to create it, and how is it going?
So I had a 21-year corporate career, and coming out of the pandemic, I quit my job to do this crazy independent consulting thing.
Yeah.
I know you've been there too. And what I've learned about being an independent consultant is you have to be just as good at winning the work as you are at doing the work. And so for all the independent consultants out there who have this 20-year corporate career and they're subject matter experts, and they just need a little help finding more clients, I've created Chicken Dinner Club. Chicken Dinner Club is an online private community for independent consultants where we focus on how to put ourselves out there to win the work.
Okay. All right. Why chicken dinner?
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Oh, okay. There we go. Now that is somebody who I know is from my neck of the woods. Okay. All right. I love it.
There's a guy from the Savannah Bananas. He has he has a book called Find Your Yellow Tux, and life's too short for boring brands. So instead of the independent consultant sales and marketing community, why not call it the Chicken Dinner Club?
I feel like we could end here. We totally could, because that's so true. And I'm a huge fan of the quirky and certainly the Savannah Banana style of things when it's sincere. When it's manufactured, folks see straight through it. But when it's sincere, it is absolutely delightful. I'd end, except there's one more thing that I really want to ask you about. Journey mapping has been around for a while. It's an established practice. It's known. Even if there's the doubters, in general, it's understood and can be appreciated. Where's it going now? What's next in the customer journey mapping evolution?
Yeah, that's exciting. Traditionally, journey mapping has had some problems. It's hard to update the maps. It's hard to show forks in the road where one customer goes this way and one goes another way. And so the future of journey mapping is not two-dimensional maps, but multi-dimensional journey models.
Okay.
So think about a map of the world turning into a globe that you can then slice open and peer inside, or zoom out and see its place in the solar system. So we're now building these multidimensional journey models in software where we can have linked journey maps. We can look at an end-to-end journey and then dive in. We can tie these into our business metrics and dashboards so the journey maps update in real time. And then the latest thing is I'm pioneering using artificial intelligence in journey mapping. Now, we have to be very careful here.
Thank you.
We cannot use ChatGPT to generate our journey map. What we're doing with artificial intelligence, using it as another analyst. So we do all the customer interviews. I pull them into my platform. We tag them and analyze them and I talk with my researcher, and we, come up with our personas and our themes and what we think the journey steps and moments of truth and emotions and all this sort of stuff is. But I can also take those transcripts and put them into a not generic ChatGPT. We can't share company proprietary information into a large language model. But we do have a large language model where that stuff is segmented and protected and all of that. We're able to put those transcripts into the AI and have it do a stage of analysis. And that either validates what our humans have identified. It may identify where we've missed something because of our own biases.
Dave, I like that. And you already had me at the model, right? I'm imagining, well, gosh, you're going to need a really big 3D printer for that conference room. And of course, I understand it's technology and that. Dave, this has been a good kind of all over their conversation around journey mapping, which is exactly what I wanted. So Dave, if folks want to get to know a little bit more about you, about your approach to journey mapping, Dharma, chicken dinner, in fact, what's the best way for them to get to know you?
Well, I'll say three things. One, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I don't LinkedIn on the weekends. So you can look me up on LinkedIn, Dave Seaton. You can go to my company website, Seaton, Seaton, SeatonCX.com. And if somebody is interested in journey mapping and maybe they haven't started or they've gotten stuck, I offer something called a Pathfinder session. Okay. And this is a complimentary, confidential, one-on-one meeting where we'll take a look at your journey map and I'll help you identify, based on Dharma, that next best action for driving business value from customer journey mapping.
I'm going to get all of that into the show notes. And if I'm able to negotiate with you off camera here, getting your burger matrix, we'll get that uploaded and a link to that as well, Dave, because we certainly do not want to leave that one behind.
And I forgot, Chicken Dinner Club is just chickendinnerclub.com.
We'll get all of that into the show notes. Chicken dinner sounds particularly interesting. I would have loved to have had some chicken dinner when when I was starting my independent consultant before I left it to focus on podcasting exclusively. Dave, I really did enjoy this conversation. It was an absolute delight. Thank you for being on CX Passport.
Thanks, Rick. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. If you like today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. Click subscribe on the CX Passport YouTube channel or your favorite podcast app. Next, leave a comment below the video or a review in your favorite podcast app so others can find and enjoy CX Passport too. Then head over to cxpassport.com for show notes and resources that can help you create tangible business results by delivering great customer experience. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.